Good evening, folks, comrades, YouTube, Facebook world out there. Welcome to the Joko. I am Brother Youssef, a member of the Joko Collective, a poet, a professor, and I want to welcome you tonight to the Joko, where we're going to be catching up on what's going on with the case of the Uhuru 3 and major mobilizations coming up from the Black is Back coalition. Before we get started, we in the Joko always acknowledge that the work we do here in what's called the Los Angeles Basin, we do on the unceded territories of the Tongva people, the First Nations of what's now called Southern California, in the settler colony of Los Angeles, part of the settler colony of California, and the settler colony of the United States, a global empire at this point in its history. I'm going to bring on my partner, my comrade, Tasha, to introduce our guest for tonight.
Yes, greetings. Greetings, everyone out there. And I am so pleased to welcome our guests and to talk a little bit about resistance reports and what our purpose is with Joko resistance reports. And it is we open the StreamYard forum to focus on the specific actions, campaigns, battles, and intrigues with the state and its proxies that specifically members of the Black is Back coalition and or Hands Off Uhuru coalition are find themselves engaging in their direct work and or in work directly pertaining to the defense of the Uhuru 3. And so we are very excited and pleased to offer this specialized focus on the resistance of a highly dynamic and specially organized group of revolutionary people. And with that, let us welcome Sister Mwezi Odom. And Sister Mwezi Odom is a leading member and organizer in the Uhuru movement, a socialist and African internationalist movement led by the African People's Socialist Party founded in 1972. In 2020, she joined the African People's Socialist Party's mass organizations of International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, IMPEDM, All African People's Development and Empowerment Project, APDEP, and African National Women's Organization, ANWO, to return her skills and contribute to the African liberation struggle. Using her skills and training as a mental health counselor and educator, Mwezi united with the principle that her skills did not belong to herself as an individual, but rather to the whole African nation and its development. With this, Mwezi returned her skills. I lost my line. Returned her skills in mental health and education to the All African People's Development and Empowerment Project, where she developed the Mental Health Committee, building dual and contending power mental health programming in the interest of offering genuine support to African peoples suffering from mental and physical health problems caused by colonialism. In November 2021, Mwezi joined the African People's Socialist Party to make herself useful to the vanguard organization of the African working class. She now serves as the Secretary General for the APSP USA and leads the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign, fighting to stop the US government and FBI attacks on Umali Yeshitela and Uhuru 3. Mwezi is a proud African woman, a lover of African internationalism, and she believes Africa and African people will once again be a free and self-governing people in our lifetime. And she is the mother of two of Africa's best daughters. Welcome, Sister Mwezi.
You're muted,
Sister Mwezi is
comrade.
There we go. Uhuru, greetings, comrades. Great to see you, Brother Yusef, Sister Tasha, and to everybody who's tuning in on tonight's program.
great. And we welcome Brother Matsemela Odom. And Brother Matsemela Odom, or Dr. Matsemela Odom, is the international president of the international president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement in PDEM and Black is Back Coalition Steering Committee member. He is a Black Studies educator at San Diego State University and other schools, including San Diego City College and San Diego Mesa College. Odom has published numerous articles on the history of Black people throughout Southern California, analyzing the civil rights and Black power movements, police brutality, segregation, the crack cocaine epidemic, hip hop music, and Black resistance. Welcome, Brother Matsemela Odom.
I'm glad to be here. Uhuru.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
But we can get right into it then. And I know we were talking about, where we should start. And I think we came down on starting with the trial itself, or the charges against the Uhuru Three, the trial, and where we are now, and what else is to be done.
Right. Great. Well, I'd be happy to kick that off. So the Uhuru Three, and first of all, you may hear us say Uhuru often. Uhuru means freedom. This is a Kiswahili word that was the freedom call of the Kenyaland and Freedom Army in Kenya when the Africans were fighting British colonialism. And freedom was the call, and freedom is still the call until we are free. So in the Uhuru movement, or the African People's Socialist Party, we say freedom, we say Uhuru, because that must be on our mind 24/7 until we are free. And that is a quote of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is the founder of the Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party. And the chairman, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is a veteran in the civil rights, the Black Power movement, a leading organizer in the in SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Organizing Committee, among many other things, but has found himself once again a target of the United States government. And this started, the most recent and blatant and open attack was on July 29, 2022, when the US government, the FBI, local police in 2 cities orchestrated pre-dawn raids on 7 homes and properties of the African People's Socialist Party in St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Petersburg, Florida, where they used flashbang grenades, military armed vehicles. It was just a very violent raid, on the African community as a whole, on the chairman, on his home, the home of the deputy chair of our organization, as well as members of our movement. And what we found was that following these violent raids, not only did they target in the Black community, but they also targeted in the white community, where the chairman has built organization of white people who have stood in solidarity with African people, with the right for African people to fight for reparations and to build reparations in the interest of African self-determination. And so these raids took place. They had originally named 4 members of our movement as these quote unquote unindicted co-conspirators, which meant that the US government still hadn't pulled together whatever case they thought they could come up with. It took them 9 months to later on indict 3 members of the movement, that is Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and 2 North American or white people in our organization, Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who are leaders in the party's Solidarity Front. And so this was last year. This year we just left last month in September, had a very historic trial that took place where the U.S. government, tried to charge the Uhuru movement, Chairman Amalia Shatella, and the Uhuru Three with this bogus claim of being Russian agents, and saying that everything that the chairman has done in his entire political history, but his and the work of Black people over for centuries, is again this Russian plot to sow discord and this conspiracy against the U.S. government. And so there was 2 charges. They were facing up to 15 years in prison. The count that was a 10-year sentence, they were able to had a jury that said they were not guilty. That the Uhuru movement, Chairman Amalia Shatella, we work for Black people, as we have always said. That has always been true, and that we do not work for the Russians. And then there was this other charge on conspiracy, which carried a 5-year sentence, which the jury leveled what can be considered as an inconsistent verdict. So the Uhuru Three were wrongfully convicted of conspiracy for doing something that they never did. And so we are fighting to appeal that. We are calling on people to do many things, which I know we'll have a chance to talk about in this meeting. One of those things is to pack the courthouse again, as we did in September. It was a really important trial. It was an important show of support for the Uhuru Three. And we're calling on people to pack the courthouse again in December for the sentencing of the Uhuru Three. But part of this is to understand that this is a very long and historic attack on liberation struggles. And it was, and as the chairman says, it was clear that they attacked the chairman for what he said and for what he has always said. And we understand that one thing that he says is that this was not only an attack on his right to say it, this attack on free speech, but it was also an attack for our right to hear it. And we, are consistently seeing that what we say carries heavy sentences when it is coming from the mouths of the colonized and the most oppressed. So I think I can leave it there in terms of the context of the Uhuru Three and this trial and why we are here. And I just want to appreciate Joko Collective for your continued support throughout the buildup for the trial, holding these spaces for us to talk about these attacks and how we must get organized. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Thank you for that. Tasha, did you have a follow-up or a question?
Well, I think the follow-up that I would have would be to talk about the organization of the Fight Back Coalition and the development of that, and just how many people from diverse resistance communities flocked to that, and how that has just flourished.
Great. That's a great segue, Sister Tasha. Thank you so much. So as we had said in 2023, this was when the Uhuru Three were indicted, and that July, so a year after the raids, we called together a coalition, called together to form a coalition called the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. And we, demanded that, again, once the charges on the Uhuru Three be dropped, and that we took every single struggle, as I mentioned, all of these, various struggles across the political spectrum, that they all come under one banner, under one similar struggle. And many of the things that the chairman called for, in this formation of this Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, is to understand that these attacks, whether they were attacks against the Uhuru Three, what we're seeing going on, this blatant genocide of occupied Palestine, the Filipino people. At the time, we were seeing also Cop Cities and Alex Saab of Venezuela, the people of the Africans in Haiti. Again, I don't know if I mentioned, but yes, the ongoing blockade on Cuba, Leonard Peltier, political prisoners, Mumia Abu-Jamal. It just goes on, and that what they tried to do by attacking the Uhuru movement was to isolate this. This is just an attack on this small fringe group, as opposed to having the people see this as a direct attack on themselves. No different than the attack on the Palestine on Palestine is an attack on Palestinian people. This attack on the Uhuru movement was an attack on African people. And so we called for this coalition to form something that has not been done and that we were able to, that not able to achieve in the 1960s, where many organizations pulled their support from the, from the Black liberation struggle when when the question of colonialism, the question of Black power, was on the table. But here we see organizations that unite with the right for African people to one, fight for our liberation, to organize for that, and to denounce these attacks on the Uhuru Three. So this coalition, if you go to handsoffuhuru.org/coalition, you'll learn more about the coalition. You can join the coalition, and we have over at that meeting over 40 organizations came and joined for this coalition, and it has continued to grow tremendously, exponentially. And we part of the first action that this coalition did in 2023 was to march as one on the White House in November of 2023 for the Black is Back Coalition's at that time their 15th annual Black People's March on the White House. And it was a tremendous show of support. You see people, who understood, and at the time, even like the Tampa 5 young people, people of all generations that were there, understanding that this was one struggle, one fight. And so that's who the Hands Off Fight Back Coalition is. And we'll be marching again this year in support of the Black is Back Coalition. And again, continuing to grow this coalition that is not going to end when the Uhuru Three are victorious, because they will be, but we'll continue to, forward this anti-colonial struggle.
Yeah, that broader context is important because it's anti-colonial free speech that has to be protected. I mean, this general environment, right, of what people have been calling the new McCarthyism that was already underway before October 7th,
right?
Just around the history, recent history in Ukraine, etc., right, and people losing jobs, being shut down around that, and then October 7th comes, and it's like it heats up. And that charge, right, of being Russian agents, going all I want to say going all the way back to 2016, as the Democratic Party is looking for a rationalization for their inability to, beat a weak candidate or own up to the anti-democratic system where their candidate won the most votes, but blocked by the Electoral College, right? But this notion of Russian, somehow being Russian agents. And we've seen the shutdown of Africa Stream, right, on YouTube, and other sites, right? What is this journalist Mark Sloboda, right? His site has been shut down. All these various and ongoing, right, silencing, right, of dissent, right, in the country that crows about freedom of expression and free speech. So this attack on the Uhuru Three, got to be is part of that broader context, right, of this clampdown, such that our union leader on our campus, with his beginning of the year, state of where we are, welcome back to campus, made the point of academic speech being shut down, right, across the country in this new era, right, where people are having to be careful about concepts, right, that are just should be part of ordinary curriculum, right, but that now are coming under attack, right, and so and the military character, right, of the arrest, not just a couple of agents showing up, right, but a military contingent, right, that emphasizes it's this is counterinsurgency, right, these when Trump talks about the weaponizing of the government through lawfare, right? Yeah, they're very well equipped with that, right? Because that is, what they've been using. So, anyway,
Exactly.
I'm just,
Yeah,
some
setting
of
the
the thoughts
context.
that emerge
This is
from your
not a new thing.
yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah,
Yes.
always the outside agitator, right? Black people can't think for themselves, right?
Yep.
You don't have a natural reaction, right, to being oppressed. No, somebody had to come tell you that, you need to be oppressed. Always the trope of the outside agitator.
Yes. Yes. And I just wanted to, as you said, Black people not thinking for themselves. It just reminded me, just not reminded me, but just that, um, how you started, your context, Brother Youssef, around the question of colonialism and these things that we aren't supposed to talk about, but in the 1960s, that's all that was being, talked about, and that's something that was really important too in terms of the anti-colonial struggle around the world, and what they achieved
Mm-hmm.
by crushing that movement was to not only 2 generations worth of like not talking about colonialism, but fighting for all these other struggles under the sun that are the symptoms of colonialism. And so we see Chairman Amalia Shatella has been characterized as the last man standing, as this ember that continued to burn following that defeat of the 1960s, is still here and has fought tooth and nail to not only have us say colonialism, but to understand its origins and how it manifests itself in
Mm-hmm.
everything that we experience. And that everybody, whether you are a colonizer or a colonizer, you live in this under the colonial mode of production, and how it impacts the colonized is not the same that it impacts the colonizer. And we have to be able to understand all of this and sum it up. And these educational institutions that are there to help us develop thought and all these other types of solutions are not solutions that are for the people. They're solutions to help continue to forward and to deepen this distancing from the colonial, from the understanding of colonialism and its context. And so I just even coming up to these elections and everything that's happening around the world, especially here in the United States, in a couple of weeks, we can see how important this resistance report is, in the sense
Mm-hmm.
that we have to see that whoever's in the White House come November 4th, or whatnot, resistance is key, and and we must continue. So I just want to appreciate your insight, Uhuru.
Brother Matsemela, you have
Anybody
2
jump
cents?
in?
Yeah. You're gabbing all over here.
No, yeah, I mean, I just unite with what everyone's saying. The colonial question, Chairman Mashatella, in his call for the Black People's March on the White House, November 2nd, notes that this is a sign of the resurgence of the Black Revolution. And we know that, in 1972, the African People's Socialist Party was formed to revive and complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s, commonly understood as the Black Power movement, but understand that Black Power movement was part of a global struggle against colonialism, which took many different shapes, and many people understanding their role in that: students, artists, dock
Mm-hmm.
workers. No matter what it is, people understood the need to struggle against colonialism where they're at, and that's the nature of the crisis right now. The truth is that it's actually not in the best interest of the colonial system to have complete violence against the colonized, because it's the violence against the colonized that makes absolute the conditions of colonialism, right? I mean, they'd much like more have a paternalistic relationship in which things are somewhat bad. What I mean by that is there was a slave master in Haiti who had created this idea he called rational management. And what
Mm-hmm.
rational management was when an enslaved person would resist, he'd take one enslaved person and brutalize that one enslaved person, so that for a long period of time, so that they torch that person in front of everyone, so that they could scare people not into resisting. He knew if he attacked a whole bunch of people, that eventually those people will be united in resistance against him. So when we see the Black Power movement was attacked, that was part of what they did. They killed our leaders and brutalized them in such a vicious way to demoralize the masses of African people. And to sever our relationship with our friends. So I think the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition shows that just over the last year alone, over the last 2 years, we've seen just some amazing friendships emerge with people in the last year and 54 weeks. I mean, I remember the week after October 7th, I was at a rally around Palestine and I met somebody, and I was pushing against open doors when I was doing outreach for Hands Off Uhuru. I met a guy named Paulo. It's hard to believe that we've only been working with Paulo for a year, because as you all know, as radical organizers, a year is like 5 years in organizing history. So it's like we've been working with him for 5 years. It's only been a year. But to understand that, we were pushing against open doors. That's why even the organization I'm in, International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, getting people to go out there and knock on doors and not be afraid to go out there and do this work, because you meeting friends. But that's also why things like this is so important, because political education of the public and having them understand clearly the contradictions and the role and the way in which they can struggle to overturn those contradictions. All those things are absolutely important. So yes, I just really appreciate the conversation as it is going right now, and the Hands Off Uhuru campaign, Black is Bad Coalition, and of course our respective organizations.
You're speaking of those relationships that revolutionaries, that activists have had formally with the community at large, and I'll restate that because the revolutionaries and activists were the community, you know what I'm saying, and have been the community, and we are the community, but the successful the success of the campaign to discredit activists and revolutionaries, and there's that component. There's that, yes, the violence, the attack, the imprisoning, the torture, the killing, and all of that, and then there's this, the effective break in our memory continuity, so somehow what people, when they think, for instance, Panthers, they have this very sequestered set of images, and none of what comes up is breakfast program, grocery program, housing campaigns, clinics, medical clinics, and medical campaigns, how that memory gets severed. And so the impact and the importance, not only of that same day-to-day work that the party does in communities, right, that is reknitting that relationship, that makes it impossible for the government to sow doubts in the people's mind about who the party is, and to to find someone to come from the community to act as some kind of false witness, to bear false witness against the organization, speaks so importantly to reknitting that relationship, and the power and importance of the Black People's March and Rally, that visibility to march down Crenshaw, to come into, to the People's Park, to have that conversation on, you know, on the amplifier, and the, you know, for all to hear, to, you know, and to gather in, because Lamert is and has been absolutely an area of political organizing, for political organizing, has been a Black consciousness area, but the anti-colonial articulation, that, you know, that dissent articulation amplified, not so much, you know. So it is powerful, and it is that reawakening that Matsemela is speaking to, um, that Chairman O'Malley spoke to in the call, that reawakening of the revolution, you know, and the conscious identity and understanding, and the reawakening of that continuity. Um, and so it's encouraging, it's optimistic, it is uplifting.
Since Tasha brought it up, why don't we, you know, find out about these mobilizations, right? So this will be the second annual in Los Angeles, but it's part of a broader mobilization. So whoever wants to pick it up, this 16th annual and second annual Black People's March Rally.
Uhuru, did you want to say anything to put context, Matsemela, or I can jump in?
Sure. You know, the Black People's March is the 16th annual Black People's March on the White House. It dates back to 2009, following the election, or some people say the selection, of Barack Hussein Obama as president of the United States. And if you remember, early 2009, it was a huge fanfare, people making road trips. I knew people that drove all the way from California to Washington, D.C., and their sort of get on the bus moment to witness the inauguration. But what we were told, even some people had expectations, which is kind of interesting because he never promised anybody anything. Some people had expectations that this was going to be a watershed moment for change and stuff like that. But what we were told is that you know, for him to be able to do his job, we can't even demand anything, right? So we got this sort of contradiction in which the electoral process for African people has represented the absence of making any political demands and the absence of achieving our political objectives. You know, I was commenting on this today to somebody else. It might seem like a little out of the way, but it's not. I was commenting on people, to some people, that in the 18th century, they had something called Negro Election Day in New England. I don't know if you've ever heard of Negro Election Day. And some people even boasted as the first Black voting system. But what it was a day in which the African community would select a leader, or what they even called the Negro King. And here's what I wrote. I said, in the 1700s, there was something called Negro Election Day in New England. It's celebrated as the first Black voting system. It was a symbolic cultural festival. It represented a sort of resistance to the social system and a form of community and identity formation for Black people at that time. Outside of that, there was little political power that came from it. At best, I guess we can say it laid the foundation for the quest for power later on, but not much, right? It seems to me that we are still practicing Negro Election Day. Other communities expect the electoral process to guide them in their political objectives. For us, African people are told just participating in the process is what defines democracy. The difference between now and then, however, is that even in the 1700s, Negro Election Day was a tactical was tactical, meant to guide people towards something, gaining more power and freedom. Now, the electoral process, and it's been even deepened, as they place these African elected leaders in front of us. It's just a strategy. The whole thing is, we're told just that 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 our ancestors died to vote, but our ancestors died to be free. You know what I mean? They died to be free, and the vote was a tactic in gaining freedom. So we at the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations don't think people should stop voting. We think people should vote in their interests, and we think that we should put forward an agenda that represents the best interests of African people. So in 2009, the Black is Back Coalition was formed. But it's really to big up my organization, it's really sort of the outgrowth of something that happened in 2008, August 2008, which was a demonstration against then candidate Barack Obama when he came to Gibbs High School, and they asked him a simple question: what about the Black community? What's your agenda for the Black community? And he didn't have an answer to it. He's very well spoken. He can sing out the joint. He can shoot a jump shot, but he didn't have an answer to that. He stuttered for the first time. And so what the Black is Back Coalition is about is to place our demands, our objectives back on the table, and to guide people in the electoral arena and elsewhere.
Brother Matsemela, can I just interject for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, he stammered. He did have an answer for it. He just couldn't give the answer, right? I mean, because the Democrats know how racist this country is, right? And even though they know who the most loyal base is, they also know if they put that base forward, they're going to lose this mythical white people on the margin that they're always trying to keep. So he knew the answer. He knew the answer was nothing.
Right.
We ain't got nothing for him. He just could not say that out
Couldn't
loud.
say that.
Or he couldn't say, to be the symbolic receptacle of all your hopes and dreams. You have to be satisfied.
Right. So that's the purpose. The Black People's March was the first one was in 2009. A few years later, I forget the exact year, this creation of the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination, which is our platform, 90-point platform, to push forward, to push forward.
And those are the principles of unity for the various organizations. Those 19.
Correct. There's a 90-point platform that begins with Black women and even ends with climate change. And then we do have, so that's the agenda we agree upon. There is a principles of unity in which guide all the people, because the Black is Back Coalition is an organization of organizations. So many of us have different ideologies and objectives, but we're united in our anti-colonialism, our anti-imperialism, our anti-Zionism, our and things like that, So but that is the that alongside our demands is the agenda that all Black is Back Coalition organizations stand on, and the march and demonstration is a way to bring that to the public, is to show the collective unity, is to bring people into organization. I think you get a lot of people who say things like, "Oh, we don't need marches." Well, the marches aren't meant to, aren't the objective, right? Some people exist just to hold marches, and that's not the point here. But the point is to get to the people. I was a kid in the 80s, and I remember the anti-apartheid movement. And regardless of how that played out, and you know, Mandela and all that stuff, I still remember the victories of that moment and feeling to myself like I played a part in those victories. Right. Me, young kid in Long Beach, California, I played a part in those victories. We understand the limits and stuff, but also the role of mass mobilization as a sign of, I mean, I tell you this, without that mass mobilization around the whole three, you ain't talking about the fair charge being considered not guilty. You know what I mean? You're not talking about these thousands of letters of support coming for the whole three ahead of the sentencing on the lesser charge. You know, and things like that. And yeah, yeah. And it is motivating to build these friendships and these relationships. It's motivating, and when the masses see the motivation in us, then they get inspired as well.
So, 16th annual in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
And
yes.
that includes 2020, right?
Yes.
But behind Mwezi is Los Angeles, you know, Mwezi's background.
Yes. 16th annual Washington, D.C., our second annual in Los Angeles, um, uh, uh, which will be taking place in the Crenshaw district, beginning at MLK and Crenshaw, right outside the what do they call it, Baldwin Hills Plaza or something like that, the Crenshaw Mall, and marching southbound towards Lamert Park, also known as Africatown, into the plaza, left on 43rd into the plaza, where our demonstration will continue. We'll be there roughly around 11 to 2. People, we have once again a wide group of speakers, and ways you can speak on some of them as well. People from Black organizations like Impedum, African National Women's Organization, Joko Collective, of course.
Yes, Joko Collective will be there.
Black Lines for Peace. We have Union del Barrio. We have Africatown Coalition, Black Men Build. A lot of organizations in support of students, both college students as well as K through 12 students.
Great.
And I really like the fact that it really shows a wide array. Reparations are a big one right now. The Coalition for Just and Equitable California, we have a speaker from there. That's an important one, especially as we fight for reparations. We have to understand that reparations activists the United States government is attacking reparations activists, but they always, Callie House, the sort of the mother of the reparations movement in America, was attacked and imprisoned by the United States government on similar charges that they throwing at us, conspiracy, fraud, things like that. So.
Right.
So yeah. It's and if I didn't mention the organization, it's because we have a long list. Anak Bayan, the Malaya movement. Shout out to the Filipinos, as well. All of us coming together in anti-colonial movement.
That's awesome.
There's going to be culture.
Right. Yes. Joko Collective is going to provide a little culture. And speaking of which, I told you I spoke to a couple of colleagues who are, down, to come, share their work as part of the mobilization. I just have to remember to send them the flyer tonight. But they already know the date.
Well, let me. Sorry, make sure I'm unmuted. I am unmuted. Okay. Sorry, Brother Yusef, just. If I can add one quick thing, you mentioned the flyer, and I think it's important because when you look at the flyer, we're talking about and I just want to appreciate President Matsemela's overview around like the history of the Black is Back Coalition and for social justice, peace, and reparations, and this understanding that when we say march with Black people, it's also, showing unity in the struggle that, a world in which African and indigenous people are not oppressed and have power and self-determination over their own lives, there's also a world in which the whole world will also experience, a world without oppression. And
Yeah.
so on that flyer, we list our demands. One of them is victory to the Uhuru Three, defend the right to free speech. I'll just read a couple more of them. Reparations now, long live Palestine, victory to Palestine. We say free all political prisoners, free Leonard Peltier, not one more year. We say end all U.S. government and state attacks, U.S. out of Haiti, out of the Philippines, AFRICOM out of Africa, end the blockade on Cuba, immediately cease all funding to the war in Ukraine, and again, hands off Chairman Amalia Shatella. And so we understand that all these struggles are inextricably linked. And so last year's
Exactly.
mobilization, you saw just a beautiful array of flags from all, across the world, and, independent states that are there, representing. And President Matsemela mentioned Paulo, who led a really wonderful color guard brought all the flags. And so this is the kind of mobilization that we are calling on the people to participate in, one that has your interest in mind. And again, as we talked about, an agenda that is one of ending this colonial mode of production. So this is to show support of Black people that also, is a reflection of your own shared struggle, one struggle. Uhuru.
One struggle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Uhuru. So go to blackpeoplesmarch.com. Register for the march in DC and the march in Los Angeles, and it's free registration. And we are, just excited to bring the people, and we want to see a lot of students there as well, young people being a part of these mobilizations.
So it's as you list some of the solidarity organizations that'll be present. I mean, it is the trend in the world, right? Anti-imperialism is the trend in the world,
Right.
and the response is, a further move to the right, etc. But that is just, very much representative of the unease and the lack of stability.
Yes.
Because everywhere, right? Imperialism, people are pushing back on imperialism. I just saw in the news the other day that the demonstrations that have been going on in Martinique and Guadeloupe, right, as people are pushing back against French economic policy, right, in the so-called overseas departments of the Caribbean. So that is the trend, right, and that is what they're working so hard to suppress.
Yes.
And that's so important, right? I mean, I think to understand that Africa is at the center of it. That even the colonization of Palestine was and the partitioning of the Middle East following World War I was in the model of how Africa was partitioned 40 years before. And like Chairman, we just left another webinar, and Chairman was saying, look, the truth is we educating not ourselves, but we're also educating our comrades in the Palestinian and Arab communities about this history. And it's an important to place Africa at the center of it, because if not, then we let them place things like Russia or whatever this group is of mercenaries that Russia has that goes and trains people. They want to make it seem like that's at the center of this. Well, that don't explain why people in New Caledonia, also a French colony, Martinique, Guadeloupe, are all rising up, following the uprising of people in French West Africa. Right, that don't explain why the people on the streets of Paris rose up when they killed Nahel M, while Mbappe came out in defense of Nahel, and the French president had to actually take Mbappe's position around this, right? And then we understand that the Sahel gets its name because it means border, because it borders the Sahara region, which borders Palestine. It's the resistance in the African world that is even allowing for the continued resistance elsewhere. and we got to place Africans at the center to understand it.
Mhm.
Because if not, then we just know it's either isolated, so it can be made insignificant, or it's just the act of outside player. Because that's what they said during slavery, right?
Right, right.
All our blacks are happy. You know,
All-
it's just some outside agitators. They've been listening to them Quakers. They've been listening to them Methodists or them pacifists or something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you know, our blacks are happy over here, you know, and stuff like that. And you know, there I don't, but yeah, that was this whole question of like, you know, they even act like the rebellions just didn't happen. There's rebellions we just learned
Right,
about
it's
now
just
because
exactly. It's just
they just suppressed
you
them.
erase
They
it,
just
right?
suppressed
It's the George Orwell memory hole, right? It never happened, right? You just go down the memory hole.
Exactly. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing up Martinique and Guadeloupe, and we work with some of them comrades, you know.
Mhm.
And one thing is, I'll say some of us are separated by language, but we're united by the language of revolution. You know,
Mhm.
you look at that Martinique flag; they got a red, black, and green flag over
Mhm.
there in Martinique.
Mm.
You know, it looks a lot like the mixture between both of the flags. Actually, it looks like the Palestine flag and the African national flag. So it's like a red triangle with a black and a green bar or
Mhm.
something to that
Something like
extent.
that.
And they got magnificent stuff going on. The truth is, I'm looking forward to them to completing the revolution that they had originally participated in that
Exactly.
came out of Haiti.
Completing that
Because
revolution.
they were one back. They were one back to
Mhm.
be overseas territory through
Mhm.
sort of essentially what was a form of neo-colonialism then. But that don't
Right.
free nobody. They might their GDP might be higher than Haiti. But I tell you this: to be black in Martinique ain't no different than being black from Haiti. And France
That's
Fanon and
right.
them realized that when they went to France. They realized that when they went to France. You know, France Fanon talks about being on that subway car and the little a little white girl pointing at him, and black skinned
Mhm.
white man.
Mhm.
So yeah, but it's rising up. I tell you this, and I've been talking a lot, but I just tell you this, you know, um, when revolution is on the high, is on a high tide, everybody want to be black. Everybody want to
Mhm.
be black. So all this other stuff, you know, my 23andMe, we the original indigenous people over here. We not, you know, we Israelites, all this other stuff. All that stuff go by the wayside when revolution is on the high end. You know,
Right.
and, you know, everybody want to be black. You know, and we know this. You know, so it's our job to like. I think marches like this really get people motivated.
Mhm.
It puts them in the correct direction. It shows our unity and stuff like that. So there was something else I wanted to talk about. Did we want to talk about the letter writing campaign?
Yeah, we don't want to end the night without talking about that. But I was
Exactly.
going to, Tasha, did you have a question?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. In fact, was my next question. Letter writing campaign, and yes.
Right on. Yeah. So I just want to really appreciate this discussion and everything that has been set up to this point around the context of this discussion in the context of the world and what's happening and you know part of this struggle, this hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa struggle is to again continue, as we say, the fight is not over, the struggle is not over. Following this victory that the Uhuru Three had in court, again there was this wrongful conviction. You know, the prosecutors who deliberately misled and confused the jury into returning this inconsistent verdict that, you know, acquitted the Uhuru Three of one thing, but then also convicting them of this bogus conspiracy charge. And so the sentencing has been set for December 16th in Tampa, Florida at the federal courthouse. And we're calling on people to submit letters to the judge, to write a letter to the judge about each of the Uhuru Three and why they should be able to freely continue to do their work in the community, organizing for freedom, justice for African people. We invite people to go to our website, handsoffuhuru.org/letters. We have a goal of getting 500 letters for chairman, 500 letters for Penny, and 500 letters for Comrade Jesse. So a total of 1,500 letters, character letters for the Uhuru 3. And we are very close to our goal. We are past that goal for the chairman, and we're asking, and we still see letters coming in for Chairman Amalia Shatella. We are 77% towards our goal for Chairwoman Penny, and 76% towards Chair Jesse. So that's about close to about 50 letters more for both of those comrades will help put us over the top to meet our goal. And a character letter can look like anything from, especially if you have not met the Uhuru 3, any of them personally, you can still write a letter. And many letters actually that we have seen are from people that we have never met before, but who have been influenced by the work of Chairman Penny and Jesse, and will write something as simple as, one, we're calling on people to tell the judge to, offer the most lenient sentence. And so these are the kind of wording and, language that you can use in your letter to, speak to the influence that these comrades have had in the community, in the world. Maybe you've read their books, maybe you heard them speak, or you just believe that this case alone is bogus, and that, it should be that there should be the most lenient sentence. And one thing we want to say is, this is not a letter to tell the judge your opinions about their innocence, but to why they should be let free to continue to do their work. And so if we go to handsoffuhuru.org/letters, you'll see where you can submit your letters directly online. You can also email them to us. All that information is on the website. And you are welcome to write one. We're asking that you write one for each of the Uhuru 3. So one for the chairman, Penny, and Jesse. And this is how we're going to reach our goal. We are so close. We are actually 6 days away from that deadline. And we are calling on you out there. If you're listening to this and you've wrote a letter for one of the Uhuru 3, write one for the other 2. Help us meet our goal. And this is what the judge will have to be overwhelmed with as he's levying his sentence on the Uhuru 3. So December 16th is the sentencing. 6 days left before we get all of the letters in by October 30th.
Great. Well, let me add that if you go to the Joko Collective's YouTube channel, you can see some conversations that we had both with Chairwoman Penny and with Jesse, right? And you can learn some more about them and how they came into the movement, etc. So by all means, go to the Joko Collective YouTube channel. They should be under the live area, right? Click live.
Yeah, those were great webinars. Those were 2 really great, important ones.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're coming up on our, usual scheduled time to end. It's actually rare that we go only an hour, right? But anyone have anything to add, or any comments you want to make? Well, actually, I had a question about the march coming up on the 2nd. Because it's a march, right? And as you were saying, Matsemela, one of the reasons for a march is, that's a way of reaching the community, reaching the public. So will there be, is the plan to give folks something to do, right? When they leave the rally, or how's that?
Yes.
Being? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we want to mobilize people to the sentencing. We want to win people to organization. We got friends and organizations that have united with the actions for the 2nd years, and they're friends of the movement. We want to extend them to the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. We want to a lot of people are motivated around the question of reparations right now, but we gotta. I heard somebody say something that was pretty good. I forgot how she articulated, but sort of, it was something to the effect of like, it's important to have the position that we're not accepting like anything without reparations attached to it, but it can't be reparations over everything, right? Because reparations is so I think that what the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations allows us to understand is reparations as a function of revolution, as a function of the anti-colonial struggle in that sense. But we know that the reparations, I think the resurgence of the reparations struggle shows things. It shows the impact of the Black's Back Coalition, the impact of Chairman Omali Shatila, who was pushing this 40 years ago when some of us were, still in diapers. Some of us were college students and stuff like that. And it was called fringe work at that time. So I think people can see sort of like, okay, this is what it looks like. So we can draw. So we want to draw organizations into the Black is Back Coalition. We want to draw members into community members into the organizations that are there. We want to build for the trial. We also want to build proactively. One thing I think we really need in Los Angeles and Southern California are a series of public forums around the radical unity between African people and Mexican indigenous people. For people to see that, and to break through the way through which not just the state, but also the petty bourgeois elements of our community have pitted African people against. I mean, because remember, those people in the city council in LA that was talking bad about Black people, they were talking bad about their own people. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's a class contradiction. That's a class contradiction. That's not some Black people. That's a class contradiction that we have to identify. So there's so much that I think we can do, and that's one thing that I want to be organizing for, is a series of public forums that speak towards that, because Los Angeles was stolen from indigenous people. But we also have the responsibility as African people to fight for liberated territory. But going all the way back to the Maroon communities, that liberated territory was always in unity with the indigenous struggles. There's a great film called Quilombo, and in Quilombo, there's that scene where the indigenous people have been pushed off their land, and they come across the Quilombo, and they say we're looking for a new place, and Gangazumba says, "Well, you found it." Right, the Quilombo was their land as well, right? The African people are part of the. So those are the things I want to push towards. I want to bring people in the organization. I want to put forth the forums and the community education to raise the consciousness that's going to guide us in those struggles. And people receive information on how they can get involved in all those things.
Right. I mean, you see that kind of unity in what they call the Afro territories in Colombia, right? With a certain level of autonomy, or at least some kind of constitutional recognition for that continuously occupied area by Africans and the indigenous who are already there, right? And that kind of cooperation. So. And you mentioned there's a statement in a little short documentary all on a Mardi Gras day. Really nice little piece of work, but early in the film, right? Because it's primarily about the Mardi Gras Indians, right? And and there's an interview with a local indigenous elder on that history, right, of Africans escaping from enslavement and being accepted into the local communities, becoming part of those local communities, and the common spirituality, etc. Right, and even that
old school one with the Neville brothers in it.
Say that again.
You talking about the old school documentary, the one with the Neville brothers in it?
I don't remember if the Neville brothers are in that movie. I don't remember them in the movie. I went blank on the filmmaker's name. All on a Mardi Gras Day, though, is the title. And his name is like on the tip of my tongue. I don't remember the Neville brothers in it. I remember Trombone 40 in it.
I'm thinking of an older one. That one's more recent. I'm thinking of one probably from.
Yeah, this one is probably from 2001, something like that.
This is 2019. but that might be wrong.
Right, but that statement, right? That that's there's as long as Africans have been in the Americas, there's been that solidarity
Right.
and the efforts to disrupt that solidarity, right? But
Right.
the so-called, developing the so-called civilized tribes, right, and their mark of civilization is owning other humans, or
Right. Stolen
promising
labor on
whatever
stolen
promises
land.
are for
Stolen labor on
extracting.
stolen land.
Say that
Exactly.
again.
I said, yeah, we Chairman Elijah Teller defines it as black labor on stolen indigenous land.
There it is.
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
and that's part of it. So those are the things I want that they're going to hear about.
Right.
We are at we're 5 minutes now past 8. Comrade Mwezi, do you have any closing statements?
Well, only thing that came to mind, especially many things came to mind, but just with that closing remarks around liberated territory and the it reminded me to make a call to tell people to go to St. Louis, Missouri. If you have not had a chance to be on the ground in St. Louis, Missouri, this is ground zero for where those attacks happened in July of 2022, but it's also the the rebirth of a Black Power movement on the ground, liberated territory, African people building for themselves. And you can see why the Uhuru movement, why Chairman Omali Yeshitela came under attack over 50 years of work, economic, building real economic institutions for our people. You can see this on the ground in North St. Louis, which came out of this Ferguson rebellion and brought economic and political power to the people, which is something that we're lacking, but is not something that we don't have in the Uhuru movement and that we have always fought for. So just want to say, come to St. Louis, go to Tampa, Florida, go to handsoffuhuru.org, and we hope to see everybody marching at the Black People's March, whether you're on the West Coast or you're on the East Coast. Be there and be a part of this, really historic moment in history. Uhuru. And thank you, Joko.
You're
Uhuru.
welcome. Matsemela, you got anything to add?
No, I mean, I would like to salute, Chairman Mwezi's leadership of this campaign over the last 2+ years, taking it everywhere around the United States to Cuba. Just really has played an important role in doing everything and setting that example. I mean, we got amazing friends. We're going to have longshoremen speaking at the march on Saturday, November 2nd. Hands Off Cuba Committee going to be there. It's really an exciting time to be involved. And the best thing is, however people can get involved, they can get involved. Somebody told me this, right? One person, it's very hard for one person to lift a couch, but 2 people can lift the couch easily. You know, so the more hands on deck, the more we can get done. And we will win because we are winning. I think that contending power is important too, because it motivates people, lets people even think that this is part of the dual and contending power. It lets people know that, we here, we still standing, we building for the alternative. That way people don't have to be afraid of the symptoms of the system coming down, stuff like that. So
yes,
right on.
Right on. Tasha, you want
to just thanking our guests and looking forward to next week to having you back, and looking forward to focusing in on that march and who will be there representing and speaking, talking about the work of those specific organizations and who will be coming together in coalition, and what folk can look forward to seeing and experiencing, and just kind of creating an appetizer for the event, right?
Yeah.
And lighting that fire. we look forward. Okay. And
Right
that's
on.
say.
So we will be back for sure on what is Halloween. I'm likely to be in makeup. Besides it being Halloween, the days after that are the Days of the Dead, right? For
Right.
the the indigenous Chicano Mexican celebration, and it's also the feast day of Baron Samedi.
Oh,
well.
right.
So
Yeah,
might pay a little respect around that
Father
time.
Saturday.
Exactly. Right on.
A little
Father
African
Saturday.
flavor on the season. The
All right.
Right. So
very
some you
imperialist.
gotta wear that black top hat, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You
That's right.
gotta rock that top
Lord
hat.
of the cemetery and of fertility.
I don't normally wear anything, but the kids have excited me. So I don't know. I bought a mask. I don't know if you know who MF Doom is, the rapper, but I'm gonna wear an MF Doom mask.
Okay. No, I don't
because
know.
because he's a rapper from New York, so he's masked and he used to wear normal clothes. So
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
I
like
don't be knowing nothing about any of this contemporary. That's one of the good things about being old. You ain't got to know. You ain't got to worry about being hip. So I have no idea what that is. It might
if I
be
mention the Commodores, you know that though, right?
right. Exactly. I think maybe about 95, maybe. I might know you're talking about.
Graham
I know
Central Station.
Montel Jordan, right? I think I know.
Yeah, right. Graham Central Station and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get, I mean, I know who Adele is. I mean, but she's been around for a little minute now. So I mean, etc. But actually, that's freeing, right? To not have to know for social currency and whatnot and all that. So
Right.
I'm quite
I know
happy.
what I
But
know.
yeah, that'll be cool. So but we will be back. That's the main point, right? We will
Yes.
be back next Thursday, continuing this discussion, which again so important for us to have. So we want to thank you out there in YouTube world, out there in Facebook world. We want to ask you to subscribe, share, like, and again, I want to repeat, mostly share, right? Let people know, get the word out, and let them know we'll be back next Thursday.
Great.
What's the topic next Thursday? Who are y'all gonna have on?
Y'all.
You.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah,
right
y'all.
on.
That's right. We
Okay.
we doubling up, right?
Days,
right.
The days before, talking more directly about what we're going to send. What we just did.
Participating.
We meant that.
Yeah.
Okay, right on. I'm excited now, and I get to wear my mask.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure I'm feeling it, right? I'm feeling Baron Samedi this year, so likely that means Tasha and I got to be in the same place at some point, right? Because Tasha is my makeup artist.
Oh, there you go.
So we say, we look forward and we, work for and fight for liberated Africa, liberated global Africa, a liberated Hawaii, the rest of the South Pacific, a liberated North America. We say free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Yes.
Liberate the working class.
Uhuru.
How about that? Right. And we are the damn working class. I mean, that's one thing.
Yes, we are. Hey.
Everywhere, right? We make up the
global my office today. I know I'm the working class.
Right? Okay. So with that, folks, we're gonna say uhuru.
Uhuru, forward ever, backwards never.
And
we are winning. We will win.
Next week, we will see you. Keep fighting the good fight, folks. Freedom is ours to take.